Hi, everyone. Thanks for jumping on. We'll give people a few minutes to trickle in here and then we'll get started. And a few more people jump on. We're just giving folks a few minutes and then we'll get it kicked off. All right. I think uh, we've got the participants stabilizing here, everybody on board, so we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today and taking the time out of your day to join us for today's webinar, Raise Every Day in Action, How Modern IR Teams Stay Fundraise Ready. My name is Ray Grant. I'm a VP of Strategic Initiatives here at Altvia, and I'm joined by Ethan Hill, our Senior Solutions Consultant. And today, we're following up on the webinar we did last month, where we were able to really touch on high-level market trends around fundraising. And we were joined by a client, an LP advisor that really touched on some hard-hitting trends that are challenging IR operators in today's space around increased competition with LPs, more sophisticated LPs, LPs with less patience, and shorter attention spans, and how IR teams are really having to shift to a long-term relationship mindset. And what are firms doing to really enable their operations to evolve in the market we are in today? So here at Altvia, that's what we're in the business of. We've been working exclusively with private equity, venture capital, and alts firms since 2006, building workflow solutions for capital raising, investing, and investor operations. So on today's webinar, we want to follow up on some of those high-level trends that we talked about last time. But this time we want to actually get into the product and a little bit more of the how and what are market-leading IR teams actually doing in their operations and technology to keep up. And more importantly, for IR professionals on the call today, where do you stand in the market against your peers? What are the good IR teams doing, and where are some falling behind? So that's the agenda for today. We are going to first walk through a simple framework that we call our business maturity model, and that's going to help you benchmark your current operations and technology setup and help you evaluate where your biggest gaps are today and help you prioritize your highest impact changes that you can make to your firm's operations or technology. And then once we get through that framework, I'm going to hand it off to Ethan, and he's going to actually jump into the product and show you some real examples of what good market-leading technology and operations looks like for IR teams. Of course, we'll be demoing the Altvia platform, but I hope whether you're an Altvia client or not, so I think we've got a combination on the call today. We hope that you can walk away with a better understanding of where you are in the spectrum of technology maturity for investor relations teams and what you can do immediately to impact your operations and improve it before your next fundraise. And so just a little bit of housekeeping. The session is being recorded. We'll share the recording and the slides afterward. And I believe there is a QA box in the Zoom window here. So please feel free as questions come up throughout the maturity model overview or the demo, drop questions in there. We'll be keeping an eye on that and can answer them as we go. All right. So with that, let's jump into the technology maturity model. So what is the business technology maturity model? As I said, it's a framework that outlines key components to consider as you're both investing in and using technology. It's meant to help you assess your firm's current state and then identify those growth priorities and key strategy for a success plan moving forward. So the way we like to think of the model that drives technology success is in 5 key pillars. First one being technology, the obvious one, the tech that you're actually using. Second one being the data and the analytics, the data that's going into the systems and coming out, how that's being managed, and then your process, how are people, aligned with their roles and responsibilities within the system? How is the technology aligning with actual business processes that are unique to your firm? And then overlaying that all is sponsorship, leadership sponsorship, executive sponsorship. Is there a mandate for adoption of technology at the firm? So they're all sort of, I would say, equally important in terms of advancing your firm's maturity in technology, and we'll get into each one and what it looks like. So a lot to digest here, but this is the breakdown of our 4 pillars going to the left-hand side. And then along the top, your score from developing, to put it kindly, moving right all the way to market leading. So within each pillar and each segment, we've got some basic definitions of what that looks like. So you can start to take a look at this and think about where your firm sits on the spectrum within each pillar. And being honest about yourself in terms of where are we strong, where do we have gaps within each of these pillars. And we have slides that do deeper dives into each of these boxes that really get into the nitty-gritty detail. Don't have time to cover them all today, but I'll start with a quick overview to sort of tee up some of the demo that Ethan's going to jump into. First one, technology. We break this down into both the investment of the technology that they're using and also how you're evolving that technology. So good market leading firms know that technology is continually evolving, whereas some others who may be more on the left side of the spectrum here, they buy it and they sit on it, and any changes moving forward are purely reactive, right? So good firms are proactively evolving. They're working with a good partner to continue to grow their adoption and use of technology. And market leading firms are thinking of technology as a differentiator for their operations. Obviously, on the left-hand side, maybe you've gotten off of Excel sheets and you have a basic, simple CRM. Moving to the right, now you have multiple systems like a CRM, an accounting system, and a LP portal, data room, reporting systems. Market leading firms are tying those all together to have an integrated tech platform and leveraging that as a differentiator. Then on the data side, which I'd argue is the most important and most challenging pillar to be market leading in here, firms who are still emerging here may really have a lot of different sources of data at the firm where you're jumping around looking at market data sources, proprietary data sources, accounting, fund admin data sources, whereas the more strategic market leading clients we're seeing are capturing data from multiple sources into one single source of truth. And so that can start as just your basic CRM table stakes, moving on to an integrated solution that captures workflows and allows you to seamlessly take action through one system of record as a firm. And again, using that as a differentiator and something that's predictive that you're actually making decisions based on the data that you're ingesting as a firm. So those are the two big ones that I think will be addressed by Ethan's demo today. But then the other three equally important: the people, the process, and the sponsorship that we touched on. Um, this can be as simple as starting out with your processes. Do you have anything documented in terms of your firm's use of technology for processes? The clients that we've worked with, to start, typically the answer is no, or it's owned by institutional knowledge in one person's head, right? So asking yourself a question: if our key technology administrator left the firm today, would we pick up right where we left off? Do we have everything documented? And is the technology built in such a way that it's tailored to our firm's processes that we have a universal understanding of? So I think while less technology oriented, just as important to having a successful technology adoption. So I'll stop talking here. Here's some of those examples of the deeper dives that we can follow up with after. But let's jump into the platform and show you some examples of what market leading clients are doing to use technology and data as a differentiator. So I'll stop sharing and I'll pass it over to Ethan.
Cool. As I pull up my screen, I'll kind of reintroduce myself. My name's Ethan. I am a solutions consultant here at Altvia. Really, what that means is I spend a lot of time talking to either existing clients or net new clients, going through their processes internally and how they use technology or don't use technology. And what we've tried to do is summarize what we've seen the market leading clients doing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off where your LPs start, the data room. I'm logged in this example as an LP. And what I always like to call out here is what's the first impression for your LPs or prospective LPs, right? Logging into the system. We want to make this as clean and as easy to use as possible. I always want to mention too, I'm not a marketing whiz. There are some marketing whizzes on this call. I made this look as good as possible. You can make it look a lot better. And LPs can do all the classic things, right? I can log in, I can hopefully submit indications of interest. I can click into the documents tab. I can filter down to maybe just a specific PPM. I can go and view that PPM. We can choose whether you want to allow them to download this information or not. And really, the idea here is that we're able to leverage technology to be able to quickly and securely share information. I think most of our GP clients view data rooms as a necessary evil. It's something that makes sense. It's needed. It's helpful, but it's generally just kind of part of the process. What we've seen from our market leading GPs is that they've taken the next step and really started to ask themselves what would happen if the data room actually improved their processes and made it easier to solicit commitments as well as engage with prospects. So what we've done internally is we've actually made it so that the data room and all the data room activity is linked directly back to the CRM so that those fundraisers don't have to be logging into 4 or 5 different systems to be able to get a holistic view of what's going on with their prospects. If I log into the CRM, I'm now logged in as a GP, someone who's raising capital. I can see that I've clicked on a contact, Gail Corona. Within this view, I'm going to have a data room, a VDR portal tab here. If I see that I'm looking at Fund 3, that's what we're talking about, we can quickly see that we've got a prospect that's engaged, right? This is that view that was from 2 minutes ago. We're able to understand exactly what prospect is interested in. And when we start thinking about running reports, having sort of an analysis run, I don't have to be doing things in 5 different places and uploading and importing and exporting. I can do everything in one spot. And it's really helping, again, those GPs run things smoother. Less friction in their systems. Everything's in one spot. And again, makes life a little easier.
Thanks, Ethan.
Uh,
And that's what we're talking about when we say integrated technology. I think that's you hear a lot of buzzwords, right? But when you see it in action, it means that you don't have to have multiple logins as a fundraiser to run reports from a data room, to run reports from a marketing engine, which Ethan will get to. Or if Kale reached out and said, hey, I forgot my password, or could you disable two-factor? You're not reaching out to a fund admin to do that. You're not reaching out to a different team and making the LP wait. You can take quick action. You can see the activity right from the LP page in your CRM here. that's what some of our best clients are doing.
For sure. And something else I'd like to call out is that this is something that we're continually improving upon. Again, more of my kind of product hat is this is where we're starting to leverage more and more on the AI side of the house. So we've got all this information in one spot. How can we start to take insights from that? More to come there. Again, marketing hasn't approved all of my talk track, but the idea is that we're able to start leveraging AI to be able to start to act on some of these insights. All right. So another common workflow we see clients struggle with is juggling multiple systems when we start thinking about email outreach. So, hey, I've got a road show, or hey, I've got a new fund that's launching. Often what we hear from clients, either prospective or existing GPs we're working with, is they've got information in Outlook, they've got information obviously in the CRM with all their client information, emails, that sort of thing. And then generally speaking, sometimes what we also see is that they're using some sort of a marketing tool to be able to kind of marry those two things together and be able to send out mass marketing. Firms that we see as market leading, generally speaking, have a single system of record in which marketing tools are connected in the CRM. If I switch gears a bit, what we're able to see here is that we have a marketing tool that's kind of on top of the CRM. So again, another piece of the puzzle where I'm not having to go out into another system or export anything and then upload it in somewhere else. We've got the Correspond tool, which is our internal marketing kind of mass communication platform. And the way I think about this is it integrates a few different pieces of that puzzle. The first piece is that I'm able to actually start creating kind of templates or any sort of marketing literature directly in the platform. Something I've built here is I've got a new fund launching, Fund 6. I can create a nice, pretty email template with exactly the information I want to share, as well as the ability for the LP or the prospect to request more information. So actually raise their hand and say, hey, I want to hear more. Again, not a marketing whiz, but I was able to do this pretty quickly. The idea, though, is that you don't have to go and do this somewhere else. From there, what I'm able to do in the system is start to leverage all of that data that's already sitting underneath the CRM. What we're seeing here is that I've created mailing lists, and these are all real time. So if I go in and say, hey, I'm going to be in Boston, I need to go in and look at my Boston LP contacts. I can have that list, and this list is real time. What I mean by that is anytime that I'm adding a new prospect or maybe even an existing LP's hired somebody new in Boston, anytime that I add a contact and put their location as somewhere in Boston, they're automatically going to be added to this mailing list. So this is real time. From there, what I'm able to do is actually go and send out emails directly from the platform. So I'm using my email template, using my real-time mailing list, and then what I'm able to see in the system is, okay, we blasted out an email, we've sent it out to looks like 32 or so people. Who's actually opened this email? How engaged are these prospects? All this information is now at my fingertips rather than living in an outside system, so that when I want to go and create reports, when I want to go and run analysis on who are the most engaged prospects, I don't have to be running them in 6 different places. Everything lives underneath that CRM so that I can have a fuller understanding of exactly who my LPs are or who my prospects are. Anything to add there, Ray?
Yeah, I think that's where, a lot of firms who are sort of in the middle of that maturity spectrum, they have a CRM, they have a marketing system, they have a data room. Um, like you said, are they thinking of that as a necessary evil, or are they using that as an opportunity to differentiate their firm, create a branded experience, create a good user experience for your LPs, and then internally leveraging all the data from the engagement on those platforms into an LP snapshot on the page? And so the one view, if you wanted to show the Caleb Grona contact record, Ethan, there that I love to end that story with is that um, alongside that DDR portal widget that's on the contact record, I also have engagement stats around, what mailings is this person part of? What mailings have they opened, viewed, clicked? And again, that's right at your fingertips. So as I'm preparing for a call, or if I'm preparing for a roadshow, this is all reportable information. It's easily there. So to me, that's the bridge that's most difficult to climb for PE firms is I have all these systems. how do I really take advantage of the data and make it a seamless experience for me internally and also a great experience for LPs externally. Um, so yeah, I think that's a good transition talking about using technology as a differentiator. Now moving into that next pillar of data. What is separating firms who are falling behind in investor relations data management from firms who are using data as a differentiator? And again, the key here is having timely data, accurate data, shared data across the firm that's transparent and accessible for everyone. And that includes institutional knowledge at the firm as well as third-party market data. So how are you ingesting that data and getting it into the system? And then how are you using it? So both, that's sort of how we break down this data and analytics adoption pillar is that, both are equally important and equally challenging. So Ethan, if you want to show an example, maybe starting with, again, just an LP account record.
Sure, let's do it. So let me share my screen again. I'm 1 for 1 on not sharing the wrong screen, so I'm feeling pretty good today. All right, 2 for 2. Okay, so for this portion, as Ray mentioned, we're going to focus on kind of how we've seen GPs leverage data directly in the system. What we've seen the most successful GPs that we work with do is start to bring as many data sources as possible into one place, as well as start to automate processes based on those data sources. So the first scenario that I want to walk through is I'm preparing for a meeting with Harvard. There's somebody on the call from Harvard who wants to sue me. Good luck. Enjoy it. My lawyer deals with contracts for software, so you're gonna smoke me. Um, the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna log into an account page for Harvard. So the way I think about this is at like the entity level, right? So Harvard Management Co. It's not just gonna be one person. It's gonna be kind of that parent organization where people sit underneath it. They're an existing LP, so it's somebody where I've engaged with them in the past, but I'm also engaging with them for a net new fundraise, and we'll talk through more of that here in a second. On the left-hand side here, what I'm able to start seeing is information about who they are. So here's their website, here's the type of investor they are, but I'm also starting to kind of incorporate more and more of that investor specific information. So are they interested in co-investments? What's their average check size? This is where I'm starting to be able to see what are their previous commitments in our funds. All that information's in one place. It's helpful, right? The other things that I'm able to start doing here is actually incorporating external data sources. So in this example, I've brought in Dakota as well as PitchBook information directly into the CRM. The benefit here to GPs is that rather than having to go and run reports in 4 or 5 different systems, I can start to leverage this data to be able to create reports, run analysis, all directly in the CRM. The example I often give is kind of back to that Boston Roadshow that we are talking through earlier, is I can run a report to say, okay, I know that I'm saving down all the information on who are my Boston contacts. Easy kind of table stakes for us. In addition to that, what I can start doing is actually also including Dakota information. So, hey, I want to go and engage with people in Boston, LPs in Boston, who are interested in exposure to tech or interested in exposure to real assets. I also want to leverage the AUM bands that Dakota has to make sure that I'm engaging with prospects that are over 500 million AUM. Again, I can now run reports in one spot that marry both what I have internally in terms of commitments, whether they're an existing LP, whether they want to invest in co-investments that we're offering up, as well as all of that Dakota information that previously has been siloed. From there, what I'm able to start doing is also running what we call a tear sheet. And the idea here is that I can come into the system and rather than having to go in either kind of drag and drop these into PDFs, I can actually go and select a tear sheet directly in the system. And from there, download it directly in the CRM so that we can either email it out or automatically email this out so that when we're going and I'm in an Uber in Cambridge on my way to a meeting, I don't have to be scrambling and copying and pasting 50 different line items about, hey, here's who Harvard is. What I can now be doing is literally just coming in and downloading a full kind of understanding of who Harvard is and what sort of information we've got saved about them. And let me just pull one up here on another screen. The benefit now is that for the GP clients we're working with, we've got a streamlined process to see all that information without having to go into those 4 or 5 different systems. And here's that example of that tear sheet. Ray, anything you want to add on that one?
No, I think that tells the story well of what our best clients are doing. It sounds simple. Sometimes, say, hey, we're tracking some basic information on this LP's preferences, but at a lot of firms, that's housed in a lot of different knowledge bases across the firm. So to prepare for a call with Harvard here, I'm reaching out to a partner who may have had a meeting with them that's not logged in the system. I'm reaching out to my fund admin team to see what activity there's been if they're an existing LP. What our best clients are doing is you have the key LP details in one place, both institutionally and with market data. And that's great, but then how are you consuming that information? And this tear sheet is one way to do it. There's a lot of ways to do it, but this is a great way to say, hey, my partner's going on a roadshow. He's meeting this person at a cocktail party or a conference. How do I get all this information quickly front and center? So first off, it has to be in the system. Second, you have to have a good way to export it. And so this is a great example of what some good IR teams are doing.
Cool. Thanks, Ray. So shifting back to the account page, what we hear about too is often clients are struggling with data that really isn't readily available. Ray mentioned it, but whenever we start talking about accounting data, I know IR professionals kind of they get a little nervous, right? It's usually something where I've either got to call up Jeff in accounting or I've got to go and call up my fund admin. What we've seen GPs starting to do is actually pull in accounting data directly into the CRM to have all that sort of information directly at their fingertips. If I come into the system, what I'm able to do is actually track both the fundraising opportunities. So, hey, here's anything in progress or that we've won, as well as the commitments that have been tied to a specific LP. So here's everything that we've had commitments for from Harvard. As I'm clicking through, I can get a full understanding of their contributions, things like that. But this can all be real time. This doesn't have to be something where it's just a commitment record where I'm saying, hey, this is how much we won on this specific opportunity. It could be something where we're actually bringing in information like IRR, where we're able to feed in the actual capital statements. And what I often see happening is, hey, I'm Harvard, and I'm going to call up the GP. I've got a question about my most recent capital statement. Rather than having to scramble and go talk to the accounting team or call up the fund admin, what I can do as that IR professional is I can log into the system and have a clear view into what that statement screen looks like directly for the LP. So on the statements tab, what we're now seeing is a kind of a view into what the LP views in their portal. As I'm scrolling here, what I'm able to start understanding is what is their capital statement? What are the numbers that they're actually referencing when they are picking up that phone and asking about the most recent transactions? I don't have to be talking to 20 different people to get a clear understanding of this. I've got one centralized place where I can view not only that information we were talking about with PitchBook and Preqin, but also the information that we are sharing with them on a regular basis. Ray, anything you want to touch on there?
No, yeah, well said. This is more and more common. We're seeing, I think 3-4 years ago, this was super rare to see, but we've set up a lot of clients with this recently where you've always had the dashboards that are LP facing in your LP portal if you're talking to an existing LP, but now you've actually got that at your fingertips internally. So this saves a lot of time, both, internal questions, maybe a partner's preparing for a call and asking for updates on their capital account information. Now that's self-serve internally right on the LP page here. And it makes you look good with the LP too. If they have a question on a call, like you said, real time, you can answer it. Whereas maybe some firms are still, yeah, let me send that to the fund admin. They'll get back to me in a couple days. I'll send you an email. We'll have a follow-up. So this is where integrated data can really be a differentiator.
Sure. So the next thing I want to talk about when we start thinking about kind of the breakdown of the world today is what does it look like when we actually start engaging with either LPs or prospects? And so what we can start talking through is what that looks like for somebody who is a fundraiser. The biggest thing here is that we want to start automating the data in the system. If I log into Outlook and I've got it in another screen here, what I'm going to be able to see is all of my traffic. So anytime that I'm emailing with Harvard, right? Hey, I'm going back and forth with them. We know that I'm kind of talking with them on the fly and I'm saying, hey, I want to get coffee with you. I want to understand exactly what's going on with your investment philosophy for this next year. Rather than having to go and manually scrape that into the system, what we've done and what, again, those successful GPs have started to do is start to automate these processes. So we know that Harvard isn't just one person making any sort of investment decision. There's going to be a team of people, in this case, 10 plus, who are all going to be kind of making those calls on what they want to invest in. Anytime that I'm engaging with any of these people, aka generally emailing them, or it could be call or a meeting, what we're able to start doing is actually bringing in that information directly to the CRM. So that coffee email that I sent 5 minutes ago, boom, it's here. I don't have to manually drag and drop it into the system. The benefit is that obviously it's less friction for your team, so you don't have to be going and manually adding things on the fly. But the other benefit is that we can start to create coverage models and logic in the system to make sure that we are proactively engaging with LPs on a regular basis. So I've had my meeting with Harvard. I've been sending emails back and forth. I've been answering calls about what's going on with their capital statement. What we can start seeing now is that our internal coverage is Hannah. Hannah's the person that's going to be kind of the point person there. We can also start tiering different clients different ways. In my world, maybe my tier one clients are my endowments, my pensions, my foundations. And in my world, I've got to engage with them every 30 days. Obviously, it's been 0 days since I talked to them. I sent that coffee email this morning. But the idea would be that when I'm going out and I am chatting with Harvard, or maybe I'm not chatting with Harvard, we can start to make sure that there's a coverage model in the system to make sure that I'm engaging with the prospects that I need to be talking with on that regular basis. Woo! All right, I took a nice vacation last week. I've got 93 overdue accounts. I can start to filter this, say, okay, well, maybe I want to start with those tier one clients, those pensions, those endowments. All right, let's click into that. I click on the tier one clients and we can see, okay, I only have one overdue contact. If Harvard was here this morning and I sent an email, they'd automatically fall off this list. What I now need to go and do is go and talk to Suitor to say, okay, let's go and re-engage with them because it's been 30 days since I've last spoke with them. So what we're seeing a lot of our kind of like best GPs, most successful GPs start to do is bring in the automation as much as possible by leveraging that data rather than going and creating all these reports manually in disparate systems. They're doing everything in one spot, and all of their reports and records are all automatically updating based on their interactions, based on their activity. Ray, anything you want to mention on that one?
Yeah, no, that's a great, sort of demonstration of one, how does data get into the system? Like Ethan said, I think best practice these days is there's a direct Outlook or Gmail connection that's ingesting those. It'll depend on your firm's processes and the size of your firm and what works best for you. There's 100 different ways to get calls, emails, calendar into a system of record like this. But inevitably, as you scale, manual logging can fall short. You can miss calls. There can be, I think a common problem we see is, partners, managing partners at the firm maybe have less adoption of the CRM. So you want to make sure best practice is you're automatically capturing information from people's inboxes. And there's a lot of different systems that do that too. And you want to find one that is not creating a mess of data in your CRM to where you have control over what's being synced, who's being synced, what events and emails not to sync, and that it's all correctly linked in a database like that. I think that's what then bridges us to data as a differentiator. And then, there's some systems that can do that, but then what are you doing with all that? data, right? It's nice to have as a one-off when you're looking at one of those investor tear sheets, but then can you derive action through reporting and analytics through that data that's being captured, like Ethan showed, where it says, all right, Harvard was my top overdue tier one LP to reach out to. We've had the coffee meeting. Here's my notes, sent them, uh, dropped them off the dashboard. Next one up in your weekly meetings to help you prioritize the most important next action. And so I think that feeds into some of the last thing we want to show is, okay, we've prepped for an LP call. We have all the information. We did great there. We had the call. We logged it. We drove the next action. It's driving our reporting. Now, how does that feed into the rest of our process within the fundraising funnel here? So Ethan can show some of that as well.
Let's do it. All right, Sharon again. So let's kind of continue where we left off, as Ray mentioned. What I'll mention here right off the bat is that what I've seen our most successful GP clients do is use a system that kind of fits their process. Every GP's process and kind of way of working is a little different. And generally speaking, again, the best GPs, the most successful GPs, what they'll do is make sure that the system reflects their process. So I've got a few examples today, but I want to make clear that these aren't examples that you have to use. We want to make sure that, again, the systems, the automation in the background reflects how you think about the world and how you go to market. So we've had our meeting with Harvard. I need to go and update a stage. I want to make sure I'm progressing an opportunity through kind of the normal cadence. What I'm able to do, right? I'm in the account page, I'm under Harvard, and we're able to see all of our fundraising opportunities, both kind of past and present. The last meeting I had with Harvard, we were talking about this Fund 3. So let's click into it. So right off the bat, I'm able to see kind of quick information about what's going on with Harvard and their investment on this Fund 3. We're able to start tracking things like what we think the commitment's going to be like. But I know we're really talking about processes here. So the first thing I'm able to start doing is creating guidance for success. Depending on the size of the team, we see different teams really kind of hammer this in versus some are the teams that maybe are a little smaller, just have a line or two like you're seeing here. But the idea is that we have kind of defined logic to say, here is when we want to progress something to a next stage. Here's when we do not progress something to a next stage. These steps need to be taken to progress something along the path. So I want to go and say, okay, yep, we've shared materials with Harvard. Let me go and mark that as a current stage. Whoa, what happened? Well, I made a mistake. And what we can start to do, and again, what successful GPs do, is they can call out, and I'll just click it again just so we all see it, that we need to make sure that there are gates or hurdles. So not only just writing down what my actual process is, but making sure that the system reflects that to make sure that I've actually added someone to a data room before I go and put them into material shared. So in this example, kind of thinking back to our earlier conversation, the benefit of having that fully integrated system and bringing in as many components as possible is that I don't have to go and log in somewhere else to go and add somebody to a data room. What I can see here is that Marcus is my guy over at Harvard. He's the kind of key evaluator. He's our primary contact. I can click into Marcus. I can go to the VDR and portal. I can say, okay, Fund 3 is what we're going to talk to. I'm going to invite him directly from the CRM without having to go and log into that external system. And then all I've got to do if I go back is literally just check that box that I've added him, and boom, we're off to the races. We're able to progress throughout the system. Ray, anything you want to add on that one?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great way to sort of put a bow on our demo here. That's the dream, is the information and the activity is being automatically captured. It's driving action. And then you have processes in place so people know the next steps to take, and the technology is facilitating that for you. Again, I think the best IR teams, while obviously we've implemented this for hundreds and hundreds of IR teams and can recommend best practices. Your firm's processes and what's going to work well, and finding a good platform that you can configure to support those processes here, like with these key fields and guidance for success by stage. And then again, not only being able to track that in the system, but having a system that can take action for you, send the email, invite to the data room. That's sort of the dream there for market leading folks on that maturity model. So yeah, thanks, Ethan, a lot. I think so much more we could show that aligns with what we're seeing good IR teams do today to keep up with today's fundraising market. But hopefully that's a good snapshot to help you guys start to think about, okay, where's my LP experience maybe a little inconsistent or lacking? Where can I use technology to improve my branding reputation with LPs? Where's my data breaking down? Where are things redundant? Where am I taking a lot of time to do things and analyze things, answer LP questions, and then where am I hopping around from different systems to get things done, or different people? So we're going to follow up with that maturity model for you guys, and if you'd like a follow-up on this, whether you're an Altvia client or not, we're happy to jump into your system and give our 2 cents about where you're doing well or not, or where you might be able to improve things. So we'll send that follow-up, and please don't be shy about reaching back out and continuing the conversation with us. We'd love to keep that going with you guys. So with that, we'll wrap up here. Like we said before, we'll send out the recording and the slides, and we hope to hear from you guys after the session here. But again, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day. Thank you for joining us, and hopefully see you in the next one. Thank you.